We've got some shocking views this week of the Disneyland Railroad Station. A new mystery is found at the Haunted Mansion, and demo has begun at Earl of Sandwich. But first, great news. The monorail is open again. And before we can even get into those construction views, let's celebrate the fact that on this day I was advised that they are loading the nose. Guests can enter the nose once more of the monorail. You can drive with the pilot. Now, this is a big deal because this is not something that you've been able to do. You have not been able to do this, I should say, since pre-COVID. It has been 5 years since a guest has been admitted into the nose of the monorail. And real quick, if you're curious to find out whether or not they're loading guests in the nose, simply look at that little decal. There's a sticker or like an emblem at the door. And if you see the monorail like you do here, you're good to go. If you see a DNL, then they are not loading the nose. So just, be mindful of that. So before we even get into the construction, I just want to bask in the awesomeness of This is such a great view, you guys. Not only is the view wonderful, not only is it a spectacular way to enjoy the monorail, you get that 360 view. You can look to the left, you can look to the right, you can look straight ahead, you can look right down at the track. It's kind of amazing when you do that, by the way. But you're also being able to listen to the pilot not just speak to guests in the cabins, but he's also speaking to control. You can hear him letting them know that they're arriving at each particular checkpoint, etc. I always find that very fascinating when I do that, and it's sort of a behind the scenes. It's like I feel like you're going backstage, and I love seeing backstage, you guys. But I digress. If you want to see more of this, check out, we did a whole video for Tours Departed Daily, our sister channel, our acoustic channel, where we walk through the parks and just enjoy things. If you want to see the whole experience, you can find it there. Let's now, though, see what we can see. Our first look in a month or so of what's happening in the Esplanade, where those trees have been, taken down, and when they're chopping up the front entrance to the gates. And this is giving us a pretty good look now of what's happening back there in this view, this first section here. As we drive by, we can see on the far left one, this is one that they've been working on this one for a little while. They're starting to replace the bricks. Those bricks, those tiles are being replaced without, by the way, the personalized ones, the personalized bricks that you used to be able to buy a long time ago. Wherever they're carving up this area in front, if there were those personalized tiles, those are being removed, unfortunately. I was hoping to see the ground around the tree that they replaced, the middle tree, but it's too full, so we can't see what's happening down on the ground. And then this is one that they've just recently dug up. And you can see how they've gotten below grade by about 2 feet. They're installing some silver-cells, those black deals right there, that square, that's going to be the eventual location of another tree. Where you see those silver-cells, that's for irrigation, that's to keep the plant watered. Still unsure, though, what the actual end game is here with what they're doing, because it doesn't seem like that there is a lot of electrical happening here. That's what we thought it was about. We thought it was about electrical. I don't know. I mean, we haven't been able to look over the walls here for a month, so perhaps in the coming months we'll be able to see. But when I look at this last one, I don't see any signs of electrical work being done here. But then again, I am not a constructionizer, so what do I know? Now, we'll stay on the train, though, because this is going to be our first look at what they're doing with the tracks. This is the track as you leave. I actually had to do 2 laps. Well, I didn't have to, but I got to do two laps on the monorail because you actually can't see as well out the window of the nose in terms of construction. So I went back around again to catch this footage of the Disneyland Railroad tracks that are being replaced. You can see on the ground down there where they've sort of placed them on the ground, but they're not yet installed. But that is in progress. And with that, we'll take a quick stop at downtown Disney to see what looks to be a finished backstage area behind the retail building. We haven't gotten to see this in a little while either. And in the time that the monorail has been closed, they have finished all this backstage. Looks nice. See if I can't peek down. Oh, they got more work to do down here. You can see some rebar on the ground back there. Looks like they're getting ready to pour some concrete in that section. And we can also look over the wall a little bit in the Parkside Market, although I have no idea what I'm seeing there. That looks like a lot of staging as opposed to actual construction. View from the ground of Parkside Market, not much to report there. Same thing in the back of the downtown Disney spot where they're going to be building Earl of Sandwich. Meanwhile, the retail building is still underway, and it's still, look at that. I wish I knew what the holdup was. I did get reports that they had some issues with failing permit tests or inspections, but they're still at you can still see the studs, the steel studs there on the walls there. They have not even put up drywall, and you can see kind of crews in the back there. They are working on it now. So we got a little bit to go still on the retail building. No demo yet at Tortilla Joe's. Nothing, no staging or anything. So we'll get back on the monorail and head back into Disneyland. And there again are those tracks over there by Autopia. As we peek over out the window on the monorail, we can see the tracks. They're staged. They're ready to be installed, but they're not put together. They've got to fasten everything together, get the ties and all that stuff, put down some ballast. So they're making progress, but they're not there yet. I went over to the Fantasyland Theater to see what I could see there. I'm looking. This is the track coming into the Toontown station. That is not new track. That is old track. The track replacement apparently is beginning at the station, at the Toontown station. So basically about where the train parks. We'll take a peek through this little slot, which I'm surprised they have not obscured yet. There's the current status. You can see the spikes there in the ground, getting ready to put that's where the track would go, where those spikes are. And then look at that. You can see they've dug up the wood surface there. They've dug that up, and you've got a couple piles there. You got the gray pile, the black pile, and then the dirt pile. That's a trench that they've dug back there. If I understand correctly, as it's been explained to me, they grease these tracks occasionally, and that with oil or something to that effect, and that oil is collected and reused, and that's where it gets collected, is in that little trenched area down there. I forget the term that they use for that. Hopefully I'm explaining this correctly, but I found it quite fascinating. There's a lot going on in putting tracks together and maintaining those tracks. It's a lot simpler than just putting down steel and letting the train run on top of it. I'll say that. We'll stop real quick at the Fantasyland Theater to get a good look and see where we're at on the demo, which is about where we left it last week. Still some Pixar theming left up on the facade there. And the surface there still is a little worse for wear. And there's a scrim up for the Small World track. So we're going to, the track replacement that they're working out now starts from the Toontown station and runs all the way to the Main Street station. The track is being replaced all the way up to where the train emerges from the diorama tunnel, out that tunnel, past those trees, and then they stop just as you reach the Main Street station. We'll go to Bayou Country next and see what's happening with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We're stopping right out here in the front where we can see some scrim up around the briar patch. There's the latest from those trees that they've installed and the speakers and light fixtures attached to those poles. And I found at this point a nice little bit of theming. There's a little fleur attached to that light pole. Stay tuned, because we're gonna be able to expand on what that actually is, which is quite interesting. Stick around when we get on the Mark Twain. This is gonna be fun. But while we're here on the ground getting this footage, they started playing the music from Princess and the Frog, and then you could hear also Tiana and Louis talking about how they're trying to find some musicians. This is the whole plot of the ride. They're searching for musicians to help them play for whatever event that's going to be happening here in the Bayou. Take a listen. Now this is interesting because this isn't the first time I've heard this, but before they were doing this audio testing only at night, later on in the evening when the crowds were less and there wasn't as much exposure to regular guests. They're doing this right now. This is like noon. This is the middle of the afternoon. That tells you, I think it's a good indicator how close they are to wrapping things up, that they're at this point. There was a constant ride vehicle testing, by the way. Logs were going through this attraction all afternoon. And they were playing this music, and you could hear the conversation between Tiana and Louis the entire time while I was there in Tiana's getting my B-roll. So that's a big advancement forward in getting near to the completion of this attraction. Let's finish our recon. Let's see what's happening with that arch that they've been building out in the front of the entrance. You can see They take out that white covering that was there last week, but you can see they've added some theming in the middle there. We can't quite make out what that is, but it looks like, you know, flowers or leaves or something to that effect that are going to hang like a trellis decoration. Get another look there. Yeah, there you go. You can see it a little better there. So they're running some, you know, some sort of, you know, wire across the two pieces there. And I would imagine that that steel is going to turn into something a little more organic looking, like you know, wood or some kind of tree type situation. I hope anyway, because that does not look good right now, obviously, but we still got a ways to go. Quite a lot of the scaffolding has been taken down in this rear section of the attraction back there by where you can meet Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore and all them. And they've added some new paint on the trim here. That's a little purple on that window right there, which I don't believe was there last week, although I could be mistaken. There's Tiana's tunnel. That is almost wrapped up. You can see they've taken down most of the scaffolding and, you know, coverings that were over that section. There's just that small little piece right there on the lower third. Although they still haven't finished putting on the veneers for that, you know, the log type veneers on that lower section. But otherwise, it's pretty much complete. Most of the scaffolding has been removed back here. You can see, so that is that's a finished product. What we're looking at there is more or less a finished product. That's going to be the color, the shade, no stain on those roof shingles. I kind of like it. I like it like that as opposed to having that dark wood finish like we had before with Splash Mountain. I like the vibrancy of this building. I like how they've given it a little bit more saturation and a little bit more color. I think that is very attractive to me. But you can see they removed the scrim or the scaffolding that was around that stone chimney-like structure there and more or less around the rest of it as well. Just a few pieces left. Some signs that we are now Bayou and not Critter Country. A literal sign there. But as I looked at these windows were dark. They usually are dressed, but I found they have dressed this window. And this window is now dressed for the Bayou. Looks like it's like a little drum set down there for one of the Bayou critters to play the drums. And if we pan up a little bit, we can see some signs of Mama Odie, perhaps. Potions, bottles, hanging from this window there. So that's pretty cool. They've dressed that. Still waiting for them to do anything or to finish the facade here for Pooh Corner. Scrim and scaffold still up around there. Although I think this is just paint and polish. I'm not expecting anything new or different here. This is going to stay Pooh Corner just like we saw before. We'll go in real quick. Still the same inside. No changes to the interiors for the first section, the treat section, or the middle section where you can get your plushes. And then there in the rear is Lewis's Critter Club, soon to be Lewis's Critter Club. That's going to be a minute before they finish that up. Coming soon. We'll check from the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh to see what else we can find over that wall. It's really difficult to see anything, you guys. It's hard. I tried many different ways, but everything just is really well obscured. Oh, by the way, while I was in the queue for Winnie the Pooh, I did notice that they have not, I found another angle of the menu. They still have not yet changed the menu out front of the Hungry Bear. It's still burgers, and there you can see there's the classic cheeseburger and where'd it go? Oh yeah, the honey spice chicken sandwich. That's still there. So they haven't yet replaced that. I'll check in next week and see if they block that view. Found this. They've built some kind of interesting fence up there along the path of the logs there. I don't know what that's for. It's some kind of theming element, but good for them. That's cool. One more trip back behind or by Pooh Corner. I've been looking for anything to happen on this section over the wall. This is the exit, and this week we do have a development. They put up some posters on the wall there. I can't quite tell what that blue one is. It looks like an ad for Tiana's Palace. And then if I pan to the right, I'm pretty sure those are some of the critters that you see on the ride. That's either Lewis or maybe even Mondo the frog. Mondo's one of the critters that you see on the attraction. So there is theming being added at the exit of the attraction. And that's Tiana's Bayou Adventure from the ground. We're not done with that yet because I remember I told you to stay tuned for the Mark Twain, which we'll be getting to in a little bit. But we're going to stay on the ground to see what's new at the Haunted Mansion. I found these cranes. They're dropping something onto the site. Couldn't tell what that was exactly. And by the way, look at, there's some kind of, they've constructed some sort of cinder block wall back there. We'll get another look at that again in a minute. We'll go to the Mint Julep Bar to see that they've added new scrim. They've put up new scrim here at the train, which is a sign that they're about to get into something, I think. They're about to get, they might be finally doing something with that building back there. We'll look over the wall. Do you see that vertical rebar right there, you guys? That so you have the brick wall there that they've built. That's the queue for Haunted Mansion. But I remember I talked about how there's actually 2 layers to that queue. That vertical rebar, I think, is the beginning. I believe that vertical rebar is getting ready to prepare the outer layer, the outer wall, that's going to create the definition, the separation between Haunted Mansion and Tiana's Palace in that little courtyard area. So there's more queue to be built, a second layer, and I believe that's what that is. And there again is that crane lift. You know, I thought it might be, you know, like soil or something that they're dropping in, but that could be a themed. The shape of that, whatever that thing is, looks to me like it's. I feel like that's got to be some sort of themed element, you know, part of the queue. Maybe a statue of some kind, because there are statues that are they were bringing back from the old Fast Pass kiosk. Meanwhile, out in front, let's just take a look real quick at the queue. They're quite a lineup here of guests. It looks like they're reforming or reshaping how they want the virtual queue guests to line up. It used to be they had switchbacks out here in front, you know, and it would kind of clog up that space there. It would fill up right about where the seam in the concrete is there. That's about where they used to have the switchbacks. They are now running the queue, at least at this point in the day when it was really busy, along the wall again of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which I guess is better. This looks bad, by the way. It does look like it's going to take forever to process all this. You know what I mean? And it does go, this line goes all the way. It goes all the way around the corner towards the entrance to Critter Country. But I did clock this in that queue. It took 5 minutes for the back of this queue to reach the threshold. So it doesn't look great, but it's not nearly as bad as it looks. This was about 9:45 a.m. You could still get a virtual queue at this point in the morning for the morning session, the morning iteration of virtual queue disbursements. So I'm guessing that they're selling out somewhere between then and about 10:30, 10:45. There's our look this week at the gift shop. It's really starting to take shape. We got a lot of shape happening here. You can really see the outline of the attraction, or of the gift shop right there in the middle. That's the window and the little planter that they're going to have underneath the windows. That something to that effect will be appearing right there. Give you a sense of where you're at in the state of construction today. People are asking about sight lines. Yeah, it does kind of block the sight line a little bit of the Haunted Mansion, but I don't know if that's really a problem. Like, it doesn't bother me that I can't see the Haunted Mansion as well from this angle. I'm not sure if I want to, because we're actually in a different land. So I feel like it's okay. If anything, it might improve that. It might improve the transition from New Orleans Square to Bayou Country, because this building is a little bit more Bayou looking, I think, especially if they do add some more trees around it. It's more Bayou looking than the actual Haunted Mansion is, because the Haunted Mansion doesn't exist in the Bayou. The Haunted Mansion exists on a plantation. So I think that might actually help transition-wise and sightline-wise. Let's hope so. Let's get on the Mark Twain and see what we can see over the wall. We were looking at this just a minute ago when they were bringing in whatever it was that they were bringing in. You can see that they have finished building the brick wall that's going to create the space in front of the queue for the Disneyland Railroad. That's where those construction workers are all sitting right there breaking. That's going to be, the same queue as we had before. Right now, they're just in the brick wall phase of things. There's that cinder block wall that I was observing earlier. I can't get my head around. That's the rear queue. That's the rear queue of Haunted Mansion. That is where all those switchbacks were, where the crypt entrance was, where that's the hill, the berm where they had the tombstones. So whatever it is that they're building there is definitely something new and different than what we're accustomed to. But if we look closer, this is where I get baffled a little bit. Is that that is, I think it's a square. Well, it's 3 walls of a square. I don't know what I'm looking at. The concept art does not suggest anything like this. In fact, we don't even really see that part of the queue in the concept art. Man, unless my perspective is wrong here, there is the sort of greenhouse deal going on in the back there. We've talked about that before, but I don't think that's where we are. This is just something else. You know what that is? That's the elevator. That's the housing, the place within which the elevator is going to be placed. But it's still kind of a mystery, because is that really how they're going to put it up there? Is above grade like that, as opposed to, well, I mean, I guess it has to come out of the ground a little bit in order for guests to exit. But I just had always imagined it still being underground, but I guess it can't, because the whole point is to give access to 88 guests. So it would be above ground. It just looks really strange. It's such a large profile, such a large present right there in the middle of that exterior queue. And you get no sense of that. As I mentioned in the concept art, they make no sort of reference to it in the concept art. That looks really out of place. I just hope, are they going to theme it? I mean, we see often where a wall or something will stay, it'll begin as like a cinder block wall, and then they'll add some veneer, some sort of surface to it to give it a more themed appeal, more themed look. There's no way this is a finished product, but how much more finished it'll be is hard to say. What are we looking at in terms of where that is in that exterior queue space back there? That is a huge mystery. We'll pan left real quick because I want to see what's happening again over there in the Magnolia Courtyard. There's the stairs up, the steps up to the Disneyland Railroad Station, the brick wall again. That's the new queue. And then what we can't see is that rebar, but that's the inner part of the new queue. Again, if you look at the concept art, there's an inner queue and then there's an outer queue. It's two concentric rings. That's the inner queue where those red brick columns are. You can see through the trees there, another cinder block wall. So that would be probably the outer part of that queue, the outer ring. And then panning back to, okay, so behind, you can see the guests there in front of the pet cemetery. Behind that, you can see they've built a new wall. We got to keep moving because the boat keeps moving. Here we go back to Bayou Country. That is the Briar Patch, soon to be Raised Berets. We'll get used to that. Behind Scrim and Scaffold, because they're probably redoing the facade. And here's where we begin to see what it was, that little fleur that was appearing over the wall. That's the entrance. There it is. They've installed the sign. That's what we were seeing, is the very tippy top of the sign. That's the entrance. That's where guests are going to enter to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Look at that. We've got a sign. That's so cool. There again, from the distance, you can see it over the wall there, right there in the middle of the frame. But we'll keep moving and take a look at the Hungry Bear, which is about in the same status as we left it last week. We're just standing by. I don't see anything happening here in terms of, retheming the outer part of this. Anything they're doing now is back of house. Taking a look again on the river. The train tracks, on the backside of the Rivers of America looks also to be about as we saw it last week. Reminder, this is not track replacement. What they're doing here is not track replacement. It's to repair or replace some of the wood features on that bridge there. This part of the track will not be replaced probably until 2026. All right. What have they done to the Disneyland Railroad Station? We're back out front again. There is the stroller rental spot where we've seen construction walls, scrim and scaffold going up. This, I believe, is all 70th. It's more closely related to what's happening there at the Disneyland Railroad. Look at this. They've got the whole train station covered in construction walls, scrim and scaffold. It's very shocking to my eye to see this. It's one of my most cherished visuals. I'm not complaining. I know that they have to do it and it's fine. It's just so hard on me to see it this way. The Disneyland Railroad is one of my most treasured visuals at the park. It's the symbol for me of going to Disneyland, and to see it behind scrim and scaffold like that, it kind of just shakes me a little bit. But this is paint and polish. They're getting things ready for the 70th. We're going to see a lot of this coming up in the last few months of the year, and then the beginning of 25, I would imagine. But the party's going to be starting soon, so they're getting ready now to make things look pretty for the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. Now, there was whooping and hollering. I could hear a lot of drilling and banging and stuff like that, but that's actually wasn't anything that they were doing to the train station itself. They're still actually in the process of putting the scaffolding together. So that's what you see these guys doing, is just putting the scaffolding up. But the actual work they'll be doing here is just to beautify the Disneyland Railroad Station. And when I talk about the visuals, I mean, it's just from wherever you are. It's because it's such a prominent figure in the sight lines that wherever you are, you can see that scrim. And it's, I found myself sort of like trying to hide my eyes, shield my eyes from seeing it. I was trying to look away, but you just can't avoid it. Here we are from the ground on the opposite side, walls up, everywhere you look. I miss it. I just looking at this, I'm just like, can you please hurry this up? I beg of you, have mercy. There's the entrance on the Tiana side of things. There's the right side. That's from the City Hall side. Yeah, man. You can't see it. You can't hear it. Nothing's happening but banging around back there. Oh, man. It's such... I have to do a State of Disneyland report in a couple days on this, and it's going to be a hard one for me because that's where I do my show. That's where I start the show every week. It's from the top of that station. Where am I going to do? Guys, I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this. Have mercy on me, Disney, please. I don't know how long the scrim and scaffold will be up, but I'm going to bet it's something like a few weeks at least, right? We believe that the train will be back open in late October. They could keep that scrim and scaffold up for that long. So we're just going to have to endure and have some patience. For now, we're going to go back out the gate, out into the Esplanade. Earl of Sandwich. It's still open here, but look at that. That's scrim back there. You guys, they've hung some scrim up in the outdoor seating area. They've blocked off about half of it, and I can confirm, I couldn't get my camera in there, but I can see with my eyes, there are huge piles of dirt back there. They are moving dirt. They have dug it up. They have dug up that space, and I would expect that the front half of that is going to come next, and then the building. So it is happening. Earl of Sandwich is getting demoed. We'll go to Cars Land next to check in on these walls. I've been asking, what they've been doing here. I believe it's to do some updates to the seating area. You guys know that there's some tables out there, tables and chairs, and with some umbrellas. They're going to do some upgrades to that space. The walls are still up, obviously, in that area between that separates the Cozy Cones from Luigi's. Took a peek through the wall, and you can see they're still very much in a dirt phase. Let's go around the corner and check things from the Luigi side. It's so difficult to get this thing in focus, I swear. There we go. Okay, so we got some scrim up there. They're blocking something, dirt, pylons, but no clue what they're doing. This is from the far right side as you approach Avengers Campus. And the others, I mean, it's just irrigation, right? It's probably irrigation they've dug. That could be all they're doing. It could actually be nothing. It always is, right? When I get mystified, it usually winds up being nothing. But it's such a small trench like that, and you can see the green pipes there. Most likely they're doing some sort of irrigation work, and then they'll replant the landscaping there. That's my unofficial guess at this point. And that's also the official end. Oh no, check that. We've got to update you on ride closures. I almost forgot. Let's get into that. Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is still closed. No date as of yet, although we're hoping it's going to be ready by the time they start the 70th, obviously in January. So that's my expectation right now, is that it's going to stay closed through December. Disneyland Railroad, again, obviously closed. No date yet, although our expectation is late October. Tom Sawyer's Island is closing on Monday. It'll be closed for 3 days. Closed through the 18th, and it'll reopen on September 19th. We don't quite know what they're doing, although it being just a 3-day closure, probably nothing guest facing, nothing major. I don't expect them to be fixing any of those major things that are not working well on the island today. The Columbia is closing on September 23rd through September 26th. It'll reopen on the 27th. Again, probably just routine maintenance, nothing major here. Small World is closing on September 16th. We're not expecting this to reopen until the beginning of the holiday season on November 15th, because the extended closure is most likely going to be because they're going to be working on the train at the same time. They're going to be installing those tracks because the tracks are not yet installed. Jungle Cruise is closing on Monday also. September 16 will reopen on October 4th. It'll be closed for about 3 weeks. Indiana Jones was closed for a few days. It's already reopened. We were there on this day and the attraction was closed, but you come back on Saturday and it is reopened. So Indiana Jones is back up. Again, no changes here that are guest facing as far as I can tell. And there's no closures at all at DCA. DCA is wide open. The only thing that's happening right now is no World of Color. And that is our complete and total construction report for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. We do appreciate you. If you like this show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. You can join our newsletter. There's a link in the description below. And otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And fresh baked.